state funding opportunities for green stormwater infrastructure. Emily Lang from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is joining us remotely to provide this presentation. The purpose is to present the Management Committee with an overview of green stormwater infrastructure practices, as well as technical and public education resources. This relates to Water Quality Priority Action 3.1 to support new and retrofit projects to increase stormwater retention and reduce pollution loadings, support development and implementation of green infrastructure practices, including reducing impervious surfaces. So with that, I'm happy to turn this over to Mrs. Lang.
And I believe, Amanda, are you on the line?
Emily, able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And I'm just going to mention that Emily was unfortunately ill, and at last minute just informed us that Amanda, her supervisor, would be providing the presentation. So thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll get through everything that she was going to say. I just got this presentation today, so excuse me if I may not do exactly what she was going to do. Yeah, unfortunately, Emily has bronchitis, and you don't want to hear her talk right now. So yes, I'm Amanda Peck. I'm the administrator of the non-point source management program over at Florida DEP. We are in the Division of Water Restoration Assistance. Some people like to call us the Division of Money Giving Way. Because we handle about a third to a half of the whole agency's budget, and almost all of that is given away to local communities to implement stormwater and wastewater and other type projects that improve water quality throughout the state. The main focus of this presentation is going to be on green stormwater infrastructure, which is a focus for my program and our EPA funding that we get through the Clean Water Act. Okay, so the first one is just what is green stormwater infrastructure? I know this is not a new thing. It's been used in the past, as discussed in 2010. That was another hot topic then, and everything is cyclical. So when we went around the state in 2018, 2019, somewhere in there, and trying to figure out why there isn't more green infrastructure being used in Florida, we found like three main barriers. One of them was people wanted the technical resources so that they could plan these projects and put them on the ground and be able to present them along with more traditional gray infrastructure projects to say, here's how much it costs, how much it is to maintain it, and what the benefits are going to be. The other thing was the funding, of course, and just being able to have these presented to their decision makers of what these benefits are. So we've been working over the last few years to develop the answers to some of these barriers, and we have presented we have a new website that's gsi.floridadep.gov. And on that site, then, I would just go back. I'm just overview, just keep on this slide for a little bit. Then we have all those resources that are still being developed, and they'll be put on there. But we do have some things that are on there, like some of these illustrations that have been developed that show what these typical systems do look like and how they function. We also have a maintenance training that has been developed with the University of Florida, and we're doing mass printings of the manual itself. And with that is a survey that can be used in Survey 123 online on any tablet or on paper that any landscaper or community worker can use to see what good, how well the system is operating with the and if there's any maintenance needs. But before I get into that, what is green stormwater infrastructure? It's been in the past used interchangeably with low impact design or low impact development. But as we developed this site, we wanted to make sure that there was a distinguishing characteristics made between those. And on our site and in these manuals that we had developed, and we had defined low impact development as more of a site preservation technique, like maintaining mature vegetation on site, preventing soil compaction, and using quality soils in construction rather than fill material that's more often sterile. So LID is a prevention of stormwater runoff as you're developing a site, whereas green stormwater infrastructure is more used in urban areas that are often built out, and you don't have a lot of land to put in a big stormwater retention pond or things like that. But you may be able to convert a part of a street or a part of a parking lot from an impervious surface to pervious parking, or a bioretention area, or that has a little bit of curb appeal. So one of the things that we like to say is that not only does this have some stormwater treatment benefit, it can also have multi-use benefit because a lot of green spaces make people feel safe and secure and feel like they have community enhancements. So you can even have a stormwater park that has a lot of amenities but also has functioning stormwater, like the Capitol Cascades up here in Tallahassee. So here are the three of the main examples that we use. Is bioretention cells, tree box filters, and permeable pavement. And this kind of just shows the typical pieces that are part of that. Okay, I think we can move on to the next slide. So we have at DEP, we have a 30+ year partnership with the University of Florida to run the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. So with green stormwater infrastructure, along with more pervious surfacing, then a lot of that can also involve plants. So if there are plants involved, then we try to push the Florida Friendly Landscaping 9 principles, which, if implemented correctly, can reduce nutrient pollution, manage stormwater, provide for wildlife, as well as conserving and protecting Florida's water. And, with the Florida Friendly Landscaping, we are also expanding that from not only a homeowner program to also do more with communities. We have a new community recognition program, and with the Florida Water Star program that is more inside of a house, then there's a new Florida Water Star Golds that also includes Florida Friendly Landscaping on the outside of the house to help conserve water as well. So yeah, here's just a few examples of where plants can be used in coordination with those practices of green stormwater infrastructure and make it look really nice while still being functional. Okay, next. So yeah, this is the site I had mentioned, gsi.floridadep.gov, where we have tools and resources. Some of them are still under development. We have a siting tool that will be coming out in the next few months that has been developed by the Florida State University that will help to look at an area in coordination with any other GIS layers that you have, and be able to say, oh, you could put a tree box here, or you could put a bioretention cell here, or this might be good for pervious surfacing. So that's, that in coordination with some modeling. There's a code audit tool that looks at your local ordinances that has been developed with the University of Florida, and there's been some other trainings on that as well that can just look to see if you include anything about green infrastructure in your ordinances. And the next step of that is to help come up with the language to put in there with some suggestions. So we've been working on that for a while. We have some LID manuals, green stormwater infrastructure manuals that have been implemented already in specific regions of the state, and as well as some example projects. We've worked with University of Florida and the Nature Conservancy to photograph some existing green stormwater infrastructure projects throughout the state. And we are looking to expand our list of projects into a database, which we would like to really encourage everybody to get with us and submit some projects. We have a short survey that we'd like to get people to fill out so that we can show how ubiquitous or not these projects are throughout the state. And so that decision makers can see, oh, there's 5 projects in my area that I could go look at to see, are they functioning, like how, how cost effective they were or not, just all the things that they might hold back on that say, I don't really understand this versus a more traditional gray infrastructure project. We figured this is something that if people can see it in their area, that might alleviate some concerns about doing more of these projects. So we do have some community education resources as well. There's a PowerPoint that anybody can download and use to, educate their community or the decision makers. There's actually a webinar series that is being recorded now that is really more intended for landscape architects and engineers, and there are CEUs available for that, but anybody can use that as well. And we have a publication tool that is more general resources that is free to use. All these resources are free to use by the public, and you can, it's DEP approved messaging on the publication tool, but you can modify the heading of it a little bit to make it more specific to your area, to fit more of the social-based marketing techniques. So this is intended to be, more of a clearinghouse of everything together. So if there's anything that you feel is missing, please let us know, and we can always keep this going as evergreen. Okay, next slide. And we have been working with the regulatory side of DEP as well to make sure that all these resources are meeting the regulatory needs and they're fitting in with the updated stormwater rule that will hopefully be in place next session. So we do have a more comprehensive set of information that are on the existing success stories that have whatever was provided by that community, the goals, the design, the funding, maintenance, any outcome and results. And with these success stories, we don't want to limit it to only things that went 1000% well. We want to show lessons learned as well, because that is an area that people don't like to talk about, but a lot of people that want to put in projects want to know. So we've been trying to, try to coax that detail out of people if we can, and highlight that everything may not go 100% the first time, but these are the things to watch out for. And we're trying to highlight those types of things on our webinar series as well. So yeah, I mentioned with the inventory, we want to come up with a comprehensive list of, even if they're not entirely green stormwater infrastructure focused, if they are including any components of the project that have green infrastructure, we would like to include those in this inventory. So yeah, on the GSI website, there is a link to that survey. You can submit up to 3 projects at a time. If you have more than that, then just start the survey process over again. Should probably look at Emily's notes. Okay, so I'm just looking at her notes. So yeah, just with the funding itself, then we want to include with that inventory any projects that were funded no matter what funding source. So if they're locally funded, state funded, privately funded, anything like that, we want to be able to come up with all the projects that were listed or that have any kind of focus on green stormwater infrastructure. Okay, the next is looks like an example project that had mostly baffle boxes, but also had some other green stormwater infrastructure such as bioswales, impervious pavers. As you can see, it looks like this has some perennial peanut, which is a really great ground cover that also is a nitrogen fixing. So, you know, that can help get your soil health back a little bit. But this can, you know, as you can see, this little bioswale can be anywhere. And it does include plants. So it can be aesthetically pleasing as well as functional. And so this had some of our Section 319 grant funding, which is administered from EPA to the state of Florida through Section 319 of the Clean Water Act. And you know, with this EPA funding, they really want an emphasis on green stormwater infrastructure and helping disadvantaged communities as well. So yeah, this had federal funding, county funding, and it looks like it also had some Southwest Florida Water Management District funding as well. So some other funding can be used as leverage towards each other with these projects, as long as they aren't double dipping or counting as match for one project and also another project. Is another project that we funded in coordination with, oh, she only included these projects, but we also, this project also had state revolving fund loan, and they actually won a national award through that funding source for this project, which included a lot of pervious paving, bioretention, as you can see, that had the curb cutouts that allows the water to run off from the street to the bioretention area, and then any excess would run down into the under drain. So this had the 319 Clean Water Act funding, also our state water quality assistance grants, and also funding from the legislature. But this has been a pretty successful project for Cocoa Beach, the Minuteman Corridor Causeway. So I think there might have been some other BMPs that were put in here that I can't really tell from this picture. But yeah, this has been a good project that we like to highlight. Okay, next. So yeah, I mentioned our two funding sources are through EPA and through the Clean Water Act. So that is mainly used for construction. But with this funding source, we can also do education projects. We do try to limit to pilot projects or you know, running an education campaign and things like that. Things that cannot typically be done with other funding sources. But we do like to encourage signage to the community to show what is being done with that project and what the purpose of that is. And then EPA also likes to have project effectiveness monitoring. So often that is water quality monitoring of installed best management practices. So as you can see here, it looks like there's a pervious paving, a rain garden, and it's like maybe a tree box. But the main focus really is stormwater treatment, but also non-point sourced as a whole. Other states have also used their Clean Water Act 319 funding for a lot of agricultural BMPs, but with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, they take a much bigger role in Florida for the agriculture treatment. I think in the last presentation, I did see there was a nursery bioretention sorry, I'm blanking on that what the term was, but we had funded something similar to that in the past. And so there can be things like that funded with our 319 funding, but the main focus really is on green stormwater infrastructure, but we can all, and education. Sorry, I'm just going to ramble a little bit here. But the main thing with this award is that because we do work with EPA, it can take a while to get the project funded and get it started. because we are currently selecting projects for the federal fiscal year 2024. So the ones that we're putting in now, we have to select the project, come up with an entire work plan, and apply through EPA for the state of Florida for funding. And we may not even get any approvals until next year for that. So it's not a immediate process for that one. And that one also has a 40% match requirement, which can use any local funding is matched, but it could also use state funding if you get that. It just cannot be federal funds that can be used towards match. And yeah, I think in the last presentation, we were talking about septic to sewer. That can be funded out of this funding source, but only the portion that's on private property that has the connection from the residents to the sewer main. So the piece that the bigger portion of the septic sewer project that is running the sewer main and upgrading the treatment plants and things like that, that can be funded out of the state revolving fund program. Whereas our little grant can be used to fund that last little piece that actually helps the homeowner connections. And they can be used in coordination with each other as one bigger project as well. Okay, I think the next slide is our state grant, which we have shortened to State Water Quality Assistance Grant. So you get some swag. These are more intended for only stormwater treatment projects. And because these are annual appropriations by the legislature, we try to limit it to shovel-ready projects. We have repealed the rule that people that have been around for a while, you may have known this as TMDL grant. We repealed the rule that had very specific requirements of what can and cannot be funded and what the evaluation criteria and things like that. So with that rule repeal, we took out the match requirement and the water quality requirement. We do like to see that there are some match applied so that you may be able to, you may get more points as you apply for the project, and you may move to the higher in the list for selection if you do have some skin in the game, but there's none actually legally required for these projects. But yeah, with both of these grants, then the real focus is water quality restoration. Okay, I think move on to the next slide. So we actually just finished our proposal process now, earlier this month on the protectingfloridatogether.gov site, which I think it might be in the next slide. Then, yeah, and just so you can see that, then we can move back to the last one. So under that, these were the grants that were open for submission. Under the current process, that period of submissions has closed, but it will be open next year as well. So that included a water quality improvements grants, which you may have known as the wastewater grants. That had just recently changed with the current, last year's legislation to open it up to more communities and more impaired waters, and not just wastewater. It also includes stormwater. There was also a Indian River Lagoon water quality improvement grant, a Biscayne Bay water quality improvement grant, and alternative water supply grants. So any of the keep your eye open on the protectingfloridatogether.gov site. And you can sign up on the mailing list to get alerts. That is the portal that DEP is using more often now to get all the funding awards for grants specifically out there, so that people will only have to go to one place to apply for any current opportunities. So for our two grants, if you want to go back a slide for a second, then our current grant administrator is Connie Becker. Feel free to reach out to her if you have any questions or you want to see our proposal document. If you want to start putting together something for our next cycle, which will probably be sometime in spring of 2024, and feel free to always give us a call and let us know what your thoughts are. We like to know early in the process so that we can help you come up with a project that we would want to fund, as well as that meets your needs. So because we have what's considered a non-competitive procurement process, we're able to talk to the grant, to the people that are submitting the proposals and make suggestions. Like, it would be really nice if you could put some bioactive media to line this project with for some additional treatment, or add some media at the end of that baffle box, as well as doing, or maybe planting something in the littoral zone of your pond, some additional treatment that we'd like to see in order to select that project. Yeah, again, this is let's say you want to go to the next line, the Protecting Florida Together. And we also, on the GSI Florida DEP.gov site, we also, on the funding part of that website, we list some other funding opportunities that may be available that can help with green stormwater infrastructure components. And we have links to those resources as well. So yeah, I guess that is the main bulk of the slides. I am free. Let me know if you have any questions, or you'd like to go over anything a little bit more detail.
Amanda, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for stepping up on short notice to deliver it too. It's greatly appreciated. Are there any questions? Any questions online? All right, Amanda, again, thank you so much for sharing this information with the Policy Committee today.